If anyone would have seen this, did it confuse people? Did it make people think, what's he going on about? What's actually happening with this? Or was it clear that there's something that's been going on for a number of years now, and automated systems are taking human jobs? And what we have to do is we have to fight back against this by upskilling our sales teams. But what I like to say is that sales is life. And people will say here, like, who has done a sales role before? Has anybody here done a sales role before? Or are we all in HR? Yeah? Every single person has been in sales in life. If we have children, for example, and the children don't want to go to sleep, you sell it to them the idea that if they don't, then the boogeyman will come to get them. That is sales. So it's the way that you come across to somebody and make them understand and make it clear of what your intentions are and what you're trying to do. So although majority of you are in HR, there's some skills here which you can take on and you'll be able to apply to your everyday. Now, I don't know if anyone saw the conference that was going on before with a lady called Gwen. She spoke about HR having better negotiation skills. You're sat in meetings and you have these great ideas. You have these great way of changes you want to make to the business. But you've got so many people that you need to get on board with this. Am I right? Yeah? Hopefully, with this, you'll be able to get some skills which will help you in those awkward situations when you're trying to get something you know is great for the business, but the company doesn't get it because it's not affecting the bottom line, and that's the number. We care more about the number, don't we? We care more than just the number. Yeah, but so many roles within the business, they say, what is this going to return me? If we bring these people in, how is it going to affect our sales teams? How are we going to make money from this? But we know it's more than just a number. If we care more for the employees, understand the employees better, the numbers will come because of it. And I always say, any training I do, anything I've done in sales myself, I've always been somebody that helped the customer, helped the client, add value, and the deals come with it. The money comes with it. And that's helped me throughout my 15 years sales career. So again, thank you so much for being here today. I'll continue with the presentation now. The role a salesperson plays throughout the sales process is becoming less and less and less. You can go around here now and you'll see, even with the HR role, people can now go onto a computer and they can ask the computer these questions. Well, what happens to HR? They're saying that it saves you time, but when companies then look at, well, if an employee doesn't need to go to HR, then why do we need those people in HR? So it's affecting not only sales, but it's also affecting HR as well. But the process, the involvement of a salesperson is less and less and less. I can go online right now and I can buy whatever. The idea of big ticket items, I can buy a car, I can buy a house, I can do whatever. The idea of, oh, I need a salesperson, that's going. The small ticket, yes, that's always been there, but even the higher ticket, you can go online, you can buy now. That's what the pandemic has done. So again, we need to protect our salespeople with this. So this is the customer buying process. There's the recognition that there's a need. There's then the information search. There's then the evaluation of alternatives. After that, there's the purchase decision. And then there is the evaluation to see if it was worth buying. Was the juice worth the squeeze? The salesperson does not get involved, does not need to get involved till 60% down the line. 60%. When your company's having those discussions, you're having your discussions and saying, right, we need a solution here. There is something going on. You'll do your research, you'll do your evaluation. What do you need with a salesperson? So what do we need to do with our salespeople? We need to upskill them, because when it comes to the evaluation and somebody says, oh, we're the market leader, we're the best thing since sliced bread, is that what you need? You found that out already online. You've seen all that information, you've seen all the testimonials, you've seen all of the reports. What we need to work on now is that human interaction, which will get the client to believe that what the company is offering is going to help them. It's going to help them. Do we agree with this? Yeah? I'm pleased you agree, thank you. So what I want to talk about today here is how to protect your sales team against the inevitable changes that are happening in the market. And what I want to look at, we want to look at it from a client's perspective. From a client's perspective. And then last of all, how do we build trust with a client? How do we get the client to trust us? Because it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? They've got to have that trust first before they choose to go ahead. But how do you get that trust? And I'm going to go through some information with you on that. Now, I went on to Google and I looked at what HR's role really is. And there was things about payment slips, but this is really it. This is what HR are here for. And that's why I want to get in contact and speak with you, because we align in so many ways. So you want to provide career growth. You want to be offering continuing education, training and support. Training and support for managers, sorry, there you go. Okay, yeah, training and support for the managers. There's nothing there about bringing in 50% growth and loads of business and loads of new money. Like, that's not what you want. You want to get your employees to be happy, you want to see growth, and you know that can come with L&D, learning and development, but in the right sort of way. Yeah, so I could come into a company and I could speak with a sales director, and the sales director, he or she would feel that I'm up against that person. Who am I to come in as a sales trainer and tell their team what to be saying and what to be doing? So I need to sit on the same side of the table with that person and get them to understand and be reassured that I'm there to work with them, not against them. So I would sit with them, I'd understand them better, I'd understand what their challenges are and how I can help them and how I can assist them. But HR are those sort of people that would initially be able to line that up. A client doesn't care what you know unless you can solve their problem. Does anyone disagree with that? At the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. This is why people listen to other people, because the role of a salesperson is to be a problem solver. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day. But if I came into your business and I said, you have a problem, not very nice, is it? So salespeople, we know that so many companies, they need our product, they need our service, they need us to come in and solve their problem. But there's an art to it, there's a way of delivering this information. Do we agree with that? Yeah? And it's not just one way. There's 10 different types of buyer personalities. So some people do need a bit of authority on them. Some people need to be handheld. Some people need to be reassured. There's a lot of people which are cynical. They're like, no, I don't trust this person. I don't believe this person. So we have to understand the person in front of us. And with the training and with the coaching, we offer those types of services. So a client doesn't care what you know unless you can solve their problem. And how do we do this? This is a massive buzzword now. Everyone loves this word. It's almost up there with unprecedented. Yeah? But empathy and emotional intelligence, understanding that person in front of you, not just feeling them, but understanding them and be able to step out of the matter and be able to offer a solution. The difference between sympathy and empathy is, if you were on a ship on a cruise line and there was somebody over there that was not very well, if you went over there and you had sympathy, you'd be unwell with them because you're feeling what they're feeling. But if you have empathy, you understand what they're feeling, but you can then offer them some sickness tablets and help them through their problem. How many times do we see people which feel like they can help, they go over there, they try to help, and they end up getting caught up with it as well? Because negativity can be contagious. Negativity can be contagious. So when I said we need to look at things from a client's perspective. Now when I was putting this together, when I go through these slides now, this isn't just in regards to clients, this is really good relationship advice as well. So I definitely recommend the men to take note with this, okay? Let's see if the women agree with what I'm about to say, all right? But there's 5 things a client wants to be. A client wants to be right. We all want to be right, don't we? But for some reason, we make it a job for a salesperson to try and prove that person wrong. You're wrong, believe me. Does that get you anywhere? Does that get a person anywhere coming in saying, one person saying they're right, the other person saying they're wrong? There's an art to it. There's an art to getting somebody to agree with you and understand that yes, their feeling is important and yes, what they're saying is important, but please take the time to hear me out about this. I understand what you're saying. I feel what you're saying, but from this side, if you look at it from this side, maybe there's a chance you might agree with me on this. Is that okay to go ahead? Yes, it is. Okay, let's proceed. A lot different than, no, you're wrong about that actually. That's actually not right. And I see it. You might think, why would anyone speak like that? Why would anyone say that to a client? But I see it so often with salespeople. Because the truth is, salespeople have an ego. That's what gets them to be number one. That wants them to be number one. Those top salespeople, they're the ones that have those big egos. So why do they want to be told they're wrong? Why do they want to be told their product's no good, their service is no good, their company's not to be trusted? They feel like they have to fight back. They have to stand up for their company. But there's a way of doing it without ruining a relationship. We want to be understood. A client wants to be understood. But this is what happens. I'm so sick of not being understood. What do you mean? What do you mean? So the reason why I say this is because salespeople are taught to ask questions. Ask questions to the clients, yes? But good answers come from good questions. So we need to be asking the right questions to the clients. A question like, what do you mean, in this instance, is the worst thing you can say to somebody that doesn't feel like they're being understood. How often do we feel like we're not being understood by our colleagues? How often do we feel like we're not being understood by other parts of the business? The same as you, I have this belief that we need to be helping others in a role. And a lot of the time we're speaking to other people who just care about the number. But we're not being understood. But there's a way to handle that relationship in sales and in life where we can get people to agree with us. So we want to be right, we want to be understood. We want to be appreciated. But what happens is, you sign up for a company because they're a huge brand. But when that happens, you're just one in a million customers. And all of that care they said they're going to give you, that customer support, we're going to support you, we're going to be there for you, it's all a lie. And you've now learned that that's actually all a lie. So then the small little company comes along with, you're their number one client, they're going to care for you, they're going to do everything they can for you. Yes, you'll have that cynicism because you've been lied to already, but the company is just starting out and you're their number one priority, and all of a sudden you feel appreciated again. So we want to be right, we want to be understood, we want to be appreciated. Along with this, a client doesn't want to feel that they're going to make a mistake, and they want to be reassured they're making the right decision. So, I don't know if she's in here now, but I don't know if Shaheen is here. No? Okay, I was speaking with Shaheen yesterday, and we were having a discussion. I was saying, like, I'm speaking tomorrow at the event, and we were speaking about like things that the client wants to be, and she mentioned, like, I just don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to make a mistake. And I said, please come tomorrow and we'll speak about it, but she's not here, so. What salespeople are told and what they're meant to do is just get the deal, get the deal, get the deal. But we need to understand what happens to that person by making that decision. Now, if a person within the company makes a decision and it affects the budget, and it turns out it's not going to work and it's not going to be the right sort of fit, what happens to that person that made the decision? The sword falls on them. But salespeople just want to get the deal, they just want to make it happen, but they need to understand that that is what the client, that's what that decision maker is going to go through. So we need to get the sales teams to be understanding this better. So rather than just trying to get the deal, trying to make it happen, they feel for the client, they have that empathy, and they're able to sit on the same side as the table as them, as an assistant buyer, and help them through the process. And because they want to make sure they're not making a mistake, the salesperson needs to reassure them they're going to make the right decision. And that's where the interaction and the conversation and stepping away from the sales pitch comes into it, understanding the client better, understanding them as an individual. All of a sudden they start to feel that they trust that person. So there's 5 things a client wants to be: right, understood, appreciated, they don't want to make a mistake, and they want to be reassured they're going to make the right decision. Does that resonate with any of us now? Yeah? But do we feel that that's more than sales, that's life? In our relationships, there's people that carry, I don't want to get too deep here now, but there's people that carry stuff from previous relationships, and us telling them we're going to be there for them and care for them, well, that cynicism from their previous relationship, that's not going to work. So once we work with them and we care for them and we build that trust, that's life. That is life, and it's more than just sales. So that's why I like to get on stage in any type of situation and try and help people with this, because it's important we understand the people that are in front of us. So how must we approach a conversation with a client? We must approach a conversation with a client with a consultative approach. Now, hopefully you can see this. This is a doctor which is having a consultation with their client, with their patient. Now, why have I put this here? Because if you were to go into a surgery, if you were going to a clinic and you had a problem with you, and you sat down and the doctor, before even saying anything to you, said, "You've got something wrong with your heart." They're like, "How do you know that?" They're like, "It's not a guessing game. They've not asked you anything. They know nothing about you. They know nothing about your problems, nothing about your situation. How can they even say anything?" So what does a doctor do? First of all, they ask you how you are. "I'm not okay." "Okay, well, why are you not feeling okay?" They say, "Well, I have stomach problems." They then say to you, "When do you experience these stomach problems?" You say, "Late in the evening." They say, "What time do you finish eating dinner?" They say, "About 9 p.m. And they say, "What time do you go to bed?" They say, "About 10:30. So from asking those questions, what do we think? Why do we think that person's having these stomach problems? Well, they're eating too late, They're probably eating the wrong foods and they're going to bed and they're laying on it and they're waking up with stomach problems. But we know stomach problems, it can be the root of so many different things, but the doctor has to ask those questions. So as a salesperson, we sit with the client, and this is what we're meant to be doing, and this is why we have to overcome what the robots are doing and upskill our salespeople with a consultative approach, because you need that human interaction. Now, you can go online and you can have a chat bot and they can say to you, how are you today? And you've got a list of 10 things to choose from. How many of us really like that experience? It is getting a bit better, but really, you just want somebody to be calling you. Who's with Emirates MBD? Hi, I'm Viva. Yeah? Hi, I'm Viva. I don't want to speak to Viva. I want to speak to a human, please. So you press 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and you get through to a human. Viva's getting better. The technology's getting better. The AI is getting better. And just that is even more of a reason why we need to upskill our salespeople, because the robots are catching up. And I say empathy. Empathy is a massive differentiator. But it's getting better, it's getting stronger. They're really starting to understand humans. So there is a problem now, but it's going to be an even bigger problem in the next few years. And I know that as HR, we want to be protecting our sales teams. And HR, the first word is human. Well, it doesn't want to be robots, robot resources. So we do this with a consultative approach, but we don't just get in there and start asking these big questions saying, what are your problems? Because that again is just too much of pressure on somebody. So you ask them a simple question like, what is your role within the business? And that there could lead to so many different things. That could give you the answer to the next 10 questions you were going to ask. But when I first started doing this with a consultative approach, I had maybe 6 or 7 questions written down. That was what I was working with. But as I said, that one question could have answered everything. But I was so hell-bent on asking those questions, I wasn't listening to the client's responses. So when I advise people in regards to having those questions, have them written down, and any meeting you go into, if it's an HR meeting, a job interview, have questions written down. But they're only there so you can actually listen to what the client is saying, rather than thinking, what question can I ask next? What question can I ask next? And I listen to thousands of phone calls of all different salespeople, and it's like they're not even listening to the client. They're so like, I've got to ask that next question. What's your budget? What countries are you interested in? What problems are you facing? They're good questions, okay, but the client maybe already have answered them. Does anyone know who this man is? Yeah? Zig Ziglar. Now people look for mentors, okay, and people say, Robin Sharma was asked yesterday about like who are you inspired by, who's your mentor, and he reeled off, a lot of people that have passed away. And this is one of my inspirations. Zig Ziglar, if you look for somebody to be ethical, if you look for somebody to have a bit of humor, that wants to care for the client, that has faith with his religion, this man is everything you look for. And he says, and it's a really good line, he says, you cannot do a good deal with a bad man or good deal with a bad person. They are outside what they are inside. So salespeople, they might put a front on, but who are they really? Who is that person you're doing that deal with? People change, like you can't be good in a company and bad outside. They just don't go together. It all comes through in the end. And the strongest trait you can have now is authenticity. Authenticity is such an important thing to have. There's millions of people out there now which are trying to sell sales training, trying to sell you an HR solution. But it's that person that you're buying into. People buy people still. So I don't know why, but I just feel comfortable with you, and for that reason, I'm going to choose you over somebody else. Do we ever get that feeling? Like a transfer of energy, like that aura, you just sense good in them, and you don't know why that is. And a lot of the time, it really can't be explained because of this energy and this aura. But I want to go through some points now that really make sure you understand why that person in front of you is someone that you trust. So how do you build trust with the client? Be more interested than interesting. Now, what do I mean by this? As salespeople, we are taught that you need to build rapport with the client. You need to sit there and say, what do you do as social activities? And they may say, oh, I go fishing to Oman, for example, okay? A salesperson that does the opposite of this starts saying, oh, I go fishing and I caught the biggest fish ever. It was this size and it was unbelievable. And they feel that's building rapport. But what's happening? The client isn't saying anything. The salesperson is just talking, and the client doesn't feel like they're being listened to. The other person just go rambling on. They're just rambling on. So to be more interested than interesting, all of a sudden the client feels they're being listened to, they're being understood, they're being appreciated, all those three things which we said at the beginning. And all because we listen. So when a client says, or when you say to a client, when are you going to social activities? I go fishing. Oh, whereabouts do you go fishing? They say Oman, and they say, oh, would you recommend anywhere particular that it would be good for me to catch these fishes? These little things, and you might think now, some people ask me those types of questions. It's a natural way, and you feel like you're building a relationship with somebody. Do we agree with this? Yeah? So if somebody was to give you a market update, a market report, was to help you get a contact within another business that would help your business, when you saw that email, would your whole way of thinking be like, oh, Mark helped me with this, actually, I'm going to open up that email. So to be of value to somebody is the way we start to build trust. And that's why if you're putting out content on social media, on LinkedIn, be of value to somebody. Yes, share information and put market updates and information, but give your opinion on it as well. Give your opinion on it as well. Because people will be like, okay, they're giving me information, they're helping me, but I like their insight into it as well. Take the time to become an expert in your industry. This is how we build trust. A client sees you, the client sees your sales teams as an industry expert and someone to go to. That's that go-to person. I know within the companies I've worked in, I'd have clients reach out to me, ask me about the market, ask me about the trends, because I took the time to understand. And if you were to ask your sales teams how much learning and development they do outside of what they're told to do, it's minimal. It's minimal. But when a salesperson makes this effort and they're seen as the industry experts, and all of a sudden the clients get those emails and they get the contacts and the information, they start to think, oh, I actually trust this person, and it starts to build that trust. Look to build long-term relationships. Now, when I came to the UAE 13 years ago, the British way of selling, get in there, shake their hands, get the deal done, time management. If I didn't realize quickly that all had to change, I had to get out, I would have been leaving the UAE a very, very long time ago. But you have to adapt to the cultures, adapt to the people, realize that it takes months, even years. Then they realize that you're there to help and you become part of the family. 13 years, I'm so proud to say that I have so many people that I can call upon, because I didn't just want to take from them, I wanted to give as well. I wanted to support and help. So we look to build those long-term relationships. So a client understands you're there for the long term, and that's why when people come to the UAE, one of the big questions which which people ask is, have you got an office here? Have you set up here? They want to know you're here to stay. They want to know you've made that investment. If you're not doing that and you're just on a flight on the weekend to come in to get home to see your family, that's lovely, but the trust is not going to be there because of it. And be consistent. If you're going to be a good person, continually to be a good person. If you're going to be a bad person, continue to be a bad person, but at least they know what they're going to get. There's nothing worse than having trust in somebody and all of a sudden they show their true colours. If you know they're not a good person, at least you know what you're dealing with, at least you know what you have to handle, you have to adapt to. You know not to trust them in certain ways. But for me, being consistent is the most important thing you can be right now. When I was putting out content, I was there on a daily basis. Everyone knew that I was the go-to person for certain information, for certain sales tips in the market. I'd have people message me saying like, oh, you've not put the information out today. And I'd send them the link to the information I put out. So I was being watched. I made this the commitment. I was going to make a daily blog of sales tips and adding value. And because that person didn't see it, they tried to catch me out. So who here feels that there's a lot of people that talk so much that they're going to deliver 1, 2, and 3, and they do it for the first week, first 2 weeks, and before you know it, it just doesn't continue. It doesn't continue on. Do we know those people? Do we trust those people? No, but we trust consistent people that turn up every day, that show up every day. They were asked, someone was asked, like, what's success? Showing up every day and being that person that's going to deliver and work your hardest, work to your best. So what I've done here, I know we like to take some photos as we're going along, but I've written down those points there. What does a client want to be, and how do you build trust with the client? I offer sales training and motivation and coaching on a consultative sales approach. So if you ask me and you're working in retail, if you're working in perfumery or something that goes up to you and says, do you want to smell this, or do you like this hand cream? I can't help companies like that. My real value is when people need to sit with a client, understand their challenges, understand their problems, and be able to present them and offer a solution. That is how I can help. But I don't just come in and say, you've got a problem. This is the process we go through. We explore, we highlight, we take action, we resolve, we track, and then we capture. This is what I look to do with companies such as yourselves. So a lot of sales training happens, but what doesn't happen is the follow-up. How many of us have had sales trainers in and the sales team just go back to how they were a month later? I would give free training afterwards just to make sure that didn't happen. I would do follow-up sessions to make sure it doesn't happen, because I want the team to be performing. I want the team to be performing because then it's good, because I'm helping others. And in regards to the services that I offer, kickstart events, so it's coming up to January, February next year now. I'm happy to get on stage and help people in regards to a kickstart, a motivation, and get the team to perform and get them started and focused in the right way. A keynote speaker, sales training and coaching, and something which has been quite popular recently actually is an interim sales manager. So when you're hiring somebody, a sales manager or director, it's not about filling up seats. You've got to take your time, haven't you? There's a whole process. It can take months. But what happens with that sales team? They're not looked after, they're not protected, there's nobody there. Yes, there might be somebody that takes on a sales team leader and he collects numbers, he or she collects numbers and reports it, but who's getting the training, who's getting the motivation? So I'm happy to step in those moments, in those 1 month, 2 months, and be there as a person, as a manager for those teams, as a leader for those teams. So with that being said, I'm so grateful that you were able to be here watching me present. Thank you so much for that. And these are my information details. If it's something you'd like to speak to me about, I'll be happy to speak to you. But again, thank you so much, everybody, and thank you for your time. Thank you.